there are adult themes in this episode, and it may not be appropriate for all for children or for all audiences. Hamas is not a euphemism; it's a very explicit term. So, if you're not comfortable with that, consider this a warning, and you might want to skip this episode. So, 3 definitions in the Tanakh, with some sub-definitions. So, number 1, it's violence, which includes rape, pillage, and kidnapping. And we'll look at some examples of that. It means ethical corruption, which can include humiliation, lying, and violating the Torah. And then the 3rd definition is one I didn't know about and isn't in any dictionary that we could find, as far as I remember, and that's to do something rigorously. And we'll get to that at the end. All right, let's start with violence. Nehemia says, let's start with violence. Hamas.
Let's start with the definition.
Let's start with rape and pillaging. Joel 4:19. Do you want to read that one?
Okay.
So here, one of the things we're looking for is how is the word used in the verse, and what is the parallel? Because remember, Hebrew likes to say everything twice.
Right.
And so if we can find these parallels, we can see what it means in that specific verse. And there might be some nuance we're missing, and we'll look at a bunch of verses to get the nuance, but we can see the general meaning in Joel 4:19.
Egypt shall be a desolation. Shall we start?
Yep.
And Edom a desolate waste, because of the outrage to the people of Judah, in whose land they shed the blood of the innocent.
So they translated Hamas as outrage in the JPS, which tells me absolutely nothing. Here Hamas means violence. And how do I know it means violence? It's parallel to they spilled innocent blood.
Shed the blood of the innocent.
Shafchu dam naki, they spilled innocent blood. And so Hamas against the children of Judah, in that they spilled the innocent blood in their land, is what it says. And then another verse where we can see Hamas meaning violence. And look, you can't just look at one verse. Because in one verse you might say, oh, okay, well, it kind of does mean just, they said outrage, right? Mm-hmm. Well, it certainly doesn't mean ethical corruption in Joel 4:19, right? Think about it. So that because of the ethical corruption against the children of Judah, because they spilled innocent blood. No, it's not just generic ethical. It's a violent act, right? It's something that results in blood being spilled. Mm-hmm. So Genesis 49:5, we can read 5 through 7. That is where Jacob is blessing his children, and he has a blessing for Shimon and Levi. And the background here is that Shimon and Levi, or Simeon and Levi, they, when Dinah, their sister, was raped, they tricked the men of Shechem to get circumcised, and they went and killed them all when they were weak from circumcision. Start in verse 5.
Genesis 49?
49, start in verse 5.
Simeon and Levi are a pair. Their weapons are tools of lawlessness. Let not my person be included in their council. Let not my being be counted in their assembly. For when angry, they slay men, and when pleased, they maim oxen.
And that's a play on words, because the name of the city is Shechem, which means the shoulder of an ox. And and then the son of who raped Dinah was called Hamor, which is a donkey, right? So we have like animal terminology here.
Cursed be their anger so fierce, and their wrath so relentless. I will divide them in Jacob, scatter them in Israel.
So this was a blessing, which in a sense was a curse. And what's the curse part? All the other tribes got a contiguous piece of land, meaning there was a territory that they got. Mm-hmm. The Levites didn't get a territory. They got individual cities, 42 or 48, depending on how you count them, cities scattered throughout Israel. And Simeon, they got little cities and regions within Judah. So both of those tribes didn't actually get contiguous land, meaning a continuous piece of land. So where's Hamas here? So I'll read you what it says in the Hebrew. Simeon and Levi are brothers. The tools of Hamas are their wares. For in their wrath they killed a man. I'm skipping part of it here. Mm-hmm. So meaning for in their wrath they killed a man is the explanation of the tools of Hamas are their wares. And here it means the tools of violence. So Hamas here means violence. And it definitely doesn't mean ethical corruption in the sense of non-violent ethical issues, right? You could say it's unethical to kill somebody, but it doesn't mean ethical corruption in the sense of robbery, lying, well, maybe robbery, lying, theft, right? That's kind of, there's a lot of, taking advantage of the poor, which is what Hamas sometimes means. Here it doesn't mean that, it means violence.
So verse 6 says, let not my person be included in their council. Who is this talking?
Actually says, let not my soul enter their council. And council is where we get together and we discuss what we're going to do. So what do they mean? What does he mean by that? Let's do that for a separate study. Genesis 9:24.
Okay.
No, at this rate, this will be a 4-hour teaching.
No. Oh, Genesis 9:24?
Yes, my love.
All right. Genesis 9:24.
And so the background here is they asked Gideon if he wanted to be king, and he said, no, you'll have a king. God's your king. You don't need me. And then Avimelech, his good-for-nothing son, said, oh, I'll be king. And I better kill all my brothers or they might claim the throne. So he killed all of his brothers, so he missed one. And another part of the background is Gideon's nickname is Jerubbaal, or Jerubbaal. So do you want to read it?
I'm in Genesis 9.
Judges 9:24.
Thank you. No, I'm in
Did
the...
I say Genesis?
I don't know. Maybe you didn't.
I think Penny Penguin said Genesis.
Penny Penguin
Judges.
may have said that.
Right.
She may have done that. So we're in Judges
9:24.
9:24.
So
Again,
let's start with
23 maybe?
And God sent an evil spirit.
Then God sent a spirit of discord between...
Is that what it says in the
It
JPS?
says a spirit of
in the Hebrew, it
discord.
says ruach ra'ah, which is literally an evil spirit. God sent
God sent
an evil
an
spirit.
evil spirit
Wow. Between Avimelech, let me read your version.
between Abimelech and the citizens of Shechem. And the citizens of Shechem broke faith with Abimelech to the end that the crime committed against the 70 sons of Jerubbaal might be avenged, and their blood recoil upon their brother Abimelech, who had slain them, and upon the citizens of Shechem. Is it Shem or
Shechem.
Shechem, who had abetted him in the slaying of his brothers.
So here's what it says. This is my translation, the correct one. And God sent an evil spirit between Avimelech and the rulers of Shechem, and the rulers of Shechem betrayed Avimelech, to bring the Hamas of the 70 sons of Jerubbaal, and to place their blood on Avimelech, their brother, who killed them. Right, that's why God sent the evil spirit, meaning. And on the rulers of Shechem, who strengthened his hands to kill his brothers. So God sent the evil spirit to cause, and it is correct, to cause discord, but that's not what it says. It says an evil spirit. And the reason for this is to bring the Hamas of the 70 sons of Gideon, of Jerubbaal, and to place their blood on Avimelech, their brother, who killed them. So what did he do? He killed them. So Hamas here is the violence of the 70 sons of Jerubbaal, or that was done against the 70 sons of Jerubbaal. So Hamas was committed against the 70 sons of Jerubbaal by spilling their blood. And so the evil spirit came to place their blood on Avimelech's head. That's the expression, the blood is on his head in the Bible. So Hamas here means violence. Now, Hamas also isn't just generic violence. It can be spilling blood, we've seen. It can also be kidnap and rape. There are 1, 2, 3, I'll read them. I won't read the verses. I'll give people the verses to do some homework. Jeremiah 6:7, Jeremiah 20, verse 8, Ezekiel 45:9, Amos 3:10, Habakkuk 1:3, Habakkuk 2:17. 6 verses have Hamas as part of a phrase or parallel to the word shod. Shod means pillaging. Shod is you come in, you burn the houses, you steal stuff, you slaughter. That's pillaging.
Shin Dalet?
Shin Dalet, shod. So, and the phrase often there in these verses, sometimes it's 2 halves of a verse, but usually it's Hamas vashod. And that's what we call hendiadis. That's a fancy term that means 2 that are one. And it's when you say two things, either one modifies the other, or they're 2 of the exact same things, and so hence it modifies it by saying it twice, right? So Hamas vashod can mean shod in the manner of Hamas. That's what it can mean, right? Meaning violent shod, violent pillaging, or it can mean violence and pillaging, because the form of violence that's being carried out is pillaging. All right.
Hamas shod.
Hamas vashod.
Vashod.
And sometimes it's shod vahamas, right? Shod and Hamas, or Hamas and shod. So they are two concepts that are a pair, right? So it's violence and pillaging. And we can see the kidnapping part of the pillaging in Habakkuk 1:9.
They all come bent on rapine.
What's the word?
Rapine?
How do you spell that?
Rapine.
What does that mean?
You tell me.
So according to the prescriptive dictionary,
Okay.
rapine means the violent seizure of one's property. Okay.
The thrust of their van is forward.
Oh, and this is interesting. So the example the dictionary gives, this is from Oxford Languages, I guess, but I got it from Google, is the fruits of violence and rapine. So here's an example of the concept I said before, where you say two things that are the same, or they're overlapping, right? So the fruits of violence and rapine. So rapine is the violent seizure of property. So it's violence and rapine, but rapine is violent, but it's a specific type of violence, right? So these go together. They're very related concepts. And that's exactly like Hamas vashod, Hamas and pillaging, because Hamas is violence, which includes pillaging.
This is they amass captives like sand.
Right. So here's what I have. He comes entirely for Hamas, this enemy that's attacking. The direction of their faces are forward, and he gathers up captives like the sand.
Wow.
So here, this Hamas includes or involves kidnapping, right? They're kidnapping people. They're taking them captive, in this case, in an invasion, in a raid, right? I mean, it's exactly what happened, literally what happened on October 7th.
Exactly what happened.
Not even similar, literally what happened on October 7th. It's the type of raid that would have happened in history centuries ago, happened in the year 2023. Jeremiah 13:22 is the next one we want to look at. And here we can see the connotation of Hamas involving rape. All right, Jeremiah 13:22. What does your JPS say?
And when you ask yourself, why have these things befallen me?
Oh, let me stop you here. So in Hebrew, we have 4 ways of saying you. What are the 4 ways? I'm putting you on the spot.
No,
She studied Hebrew at Old Pond last year.
Atata.
Wait, no, go on. Atata.
Atata. My brain is not going there. Atim.
There you go.
Okay.
So we have.
Atim.
So we have 4 different yous, because there's masculine and feminine, singular and plural. So there's masculine singular, feminine singular, masculine plural, feminine plural. Now, why is that important? Because there aren't a whole lot of passages in the Tanakh that are in the feminine you. Usually when someone's addressed, they're addressed as you masculine. Here, it's when you, and it's feminine, because the context here, earlier in the passage, is the Queen of Israel, which might be a metaphor for Jerusalem, but literally it's the Queen of Israel.
Okay.
Or the Queen of Judah, I suppose.
And when you ask yourself, why have these things befallen me? It is because of your great iniquity, that your skirts are lifted up and your limbs exposed.
Oh, your limbs exposed. So that's the euphemism. That's not what it says in the Hebrew. It says let's see. The King James has, thy skirts discovered and thy heels made bare. So there it's heels, which it is in the Hebrew. So literally what it says is your heels were Hamased. And heels in the Hebrew is a euphemism, because it wasn't her heels that were Hamased.
Right.
It was her, I'm going to use a euphemism too. Well, maybe not. It was her genitals that were Hamas. She was raped. Here, Hamas means raped, literally raped, meaning that's what it means. So when it says your heels were Hamas, the image there is, she's bent or laid down on her back, and her heels are sticking up in the air, and the man is coming and raping her. And Hamas here means they were raped. But it says your heels were raped because it doesn't want to say your genitals are raped, even for the Tanakh, that's too explicit. But think about this. The King James added another, well, and the JPS too, they both added another level of euphemism, right? So the JPS has your limbs exposed, and the King James has thy heels made bare, right? NIV has, and your body mistreated, right? So mistreated is a better translation of Hamas, right? So really it's violence were done against your heels, meaning you were raped, right? Which kind of violence, right? He wasn't, hitting your heels, right?
Well, here in the NRSV it says, and you are violated.
Right. So that's a euphemism too. She was raped.
Of course.
Right. So how do we know that? Because the first half of the verse is your skirt was laid bare, right? So, I hate to be he lifted up her skirt, he pushed her down, lifted up her skirt, and she wasn't wearing 4 layers, and he raped her, right? So Hamas here literally means rape. So should we be surprised at what happened on October 7th? They call themselves Hamas, and it wasn't that there was a rogue terrorist who raped a Jewish woman.
That's
true.
That's right.
There were terrorists who were captured by Israel, and in the interrogation, they said, that guy, we had a group, we had a team, and there was one member of the team whose job it was to operate the maps, another member who was to operate, the drone, and another member whose job it was to rape. And they were told what kind of people to rape and how many to rape. Yeah. So they were given orders in advance, you're part of the rape squad. Right? That was a strategy of war, or a tactic, maybe you could say, of war.
Terror.
Yeah, it was 100% to strike terror in the heart of Israelis, and it was very effective, quite frankly. It was evil, but it was definitely effective. It traumatized the entire Jewish people, and probably beyond the Jewish people, in a way that, I don't know, I haven't seen since 9/11.